I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining our Zoom training today. I am so excited that our guest speaker is Dima Ghawi. Some of you may have remembered when she spoke at one of our general membership meetings. 2 years ago, was it, Dima, or was it 1 year ago?
No, I think 3.
What? Time flies, time flies. And so she was great then. And so I fully expect this to be a fantastic training today. So Dima Ghawi has 2 decades of corporate experience leading virtual global teams and developing future leaders worldwide. She's worked across the United States, Europe, Asia, Middle East, and Africa for several Fortune 100 companies, including IBM, Merrill Lynch, and Intuit, which is just impressive in itself. Through her keynote speeches, workshops, and executive coaching, she has empowered thousands of professionals across the globe to develop critical business skills and also expand their potential. And so she uses her personal and professional experience to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to rise in leadership. So join me in welcoming Dima Ghawi.
Thank you, Narisha. Hello, everyone. It is wonderful to be with you, and thank you for joining today. My goal is that this session would be very engaging and interactive. So don't wait for me to just share everything I have on the slides. I want to hear from you, especially since it's a small group, we get to engage together, and that would be wonderful. So I hope you and your family are doing well. I know it's a difficult time right now for all of us, and it's terrifying. So I hope you're staying safe, even though you may be at home, unable to leave. So now, as we're starting, I want you to go to the chat. So you see the chat down there, and enter. Let us know, how are you feeling? Tell us, are you feeling happy, optimistic, hopeful? And it doesn't have to be positive, anything you're feeling. So let's have a check-in. How are you doing? Great, content, optimistic, happy. Alice, yeah, somebody is overwhelmed. Yes, Narisha, overwhelmed. You have so much on your plate. Feeling good. Great. Oh, your kiddos are going to your parents' review offers. That's good. So frustrated interest, that's very, very normal. Overwhelmed, absolutely. It's tough. We have so much on our plates right now, and none of us, we've been trained to deal with a situation like this. None of us have been trained to work virtually or to handle all of the anxiety and the fear that we're dealing with right now. So before I start, I want to congratulate again Narisha for being selected as the influential women in business. That's absolutely amazing. So let's congratulate her. Am I the only one? And I wanna talk a little, before I present anything, how important it is during this time for us women to focus on our career development. And I know with everything that's going on, it's hard to do our jobs. And for like some of you that have children, it's hard. And a lot of us are taking care of our parents during this time. It's tough, but we cannot let this situation stop us from advancing, from growing and developing new skills. I was reading an article earlier, and it talks about that what's happening right now with the layoffs, the majority of the people that are impacted are mainly women. Because think about a lot of the men in their roles, they're in a lot of them are in more senior leadership roles, executive roles, and business owners, and they are most of the time not the ones that are first that will be let go. So of course, we have no choice if an individual is going to be laid off, but we need to continue to arm ourselves and develop new skills. So that's why when Narisha and we spoke a couple of weeks ago, we were looking for various topics to help during this time, since we're already at home. So one of them was how to work virtually. And for anyone who's a manager, I'm going to mention topics about how to manage virtually, which is so important. The second topic that we have, it is for this Friday, it is about our brand, specifically our digital brand. So that is so important to think about, because when we are behind a screen, it's not a matter of just having our physical brand that we need to develop and elevate. There's a lot that we need to think about of what people think about us when they're going online, when they're Googling our names. And then the third session we have is for next week, and it's going to be motivational. It's going to be all about resilience and tips that would help us during this time. So as you see, these are intentional what we did, and I'm hoping that you will join all of them. If not, just listen to the recording. So now, so again, I want you to write a note to yourself that this is the time to develop new skills, and think about what are the skills that you've didn't have time for a long time, and what can you do right now, even during the commute time, right? We had commute time. Maybe it was half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the afternoon. Block it on your calendar and develop a skill. Listen to a podcast, do something to help you become more aware instead of just totally dissolving and with everything that we are dealing with right now. Okay, so now I'm gonna start. Okay, so now obviously we're going to be talking about how to work virtually. Many organizations, they were resisting for their teams to work virtually, because whenever they think of the concept of people working from home, they automatically assume that they're playing or they're sleeping. Look at this guy, because that is what a lot of managers had in mind in the past. They didn't realize that actually working from home it doesn't have to look like this. So I know with different generations, a lot of the millennials and Generation Z, they have been asking about flexibility and working from home for a long time. But the more senior generations, the baby boomers and some of the Gen X like mine, they're more comfortable being in the office. But now everybody is forced overnight to go and be working from home, be virtually. And as I mentioned earlier, they don't have the skills for that. So that's why it's important for us to talk about this. So here, this is a picture that I love, and it's really the image that people have when they're thinking about working from home. They imagine you're just sitting, acting like you're working, you may be on a vacation. And I realize some individuals take advantage of this system. I get it. Not everybody is going to be home productive, doing their best. There are going to be individuals that are going to hurt everybody. I know from my situation, I started working from home in 2004, and it was some roles I had for IBM I would do at home, others in the office, and others were a mix. And one of my management roles, one of the team members, she was a team leader reporting to me, she constantly would complain that she's overwhelmed, so busy. And I would keep asking her about the projects she's working on, and they didn't add up to feel like she was really working hard. And after getting a lot of information from her, I realized that she was one of the people taking advantage of the system and trying not to work, because we're isolated. It's hard for me as a manager to track what she is doing and what she's working on. And that's something we're going to talk about later. But again, let's laugh at this guy. And trust. So that's why trust is so important for us, gaining the trust of our employer, and for if we are employing individuals, to trust them that they're doing their best, and also to continue to provide resources for them. So as we're starting, we have a poll for you, and I'll have Narisha enter it. And it's mainly for me to get a sense of where you are. So before 2 months ago, before all of this started, where are you? Are you, did you have any experience working virtually? Is it yes, a little, no? And Narisha, I don't know if you put the poll up. I'm not, are you guys, do you see the poll?
It came up for me when I first logged in.
Yes.
Me too.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Great. I was like, that would explain why there are responses in it when I just pulled it up right now.
Yeah, because
Oh, wow. Okay, someone did this. That's great. I didn't know we could do that. So go ahead in the chat since the poll is not coming up, which is totally fine. Just go in the chat and tell us, is it A, B, or C? And that is mainly before 2 months ago, before all of this craziness started to happen. A little, yes.
And Dima, so they said that when they signed in, the poll signed
Was
into the meeting, the poll came up. Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had a little banner at the top that says poll is in progress. And when I clicked on it, then the poll came up where I could answer yes, no.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we have
Whatever
responses
the
in the
choices,
poll as
yeah.
well.
That's absolutely fine. So you see, we're a mix. Some of us have worked virtually before, others did not. And that's why having this conversation is so important. So here's the other poll. Do you prefer, so now after you got a taste of it, do you prefer being virtually all the time, being in the office all the time, or having a mix of both? A mix, yeah.
Based on the results that I'm seeing, of the people who've completed the poll, which is 8 people, 100% of them say a mix of both.
Isn't that interesting? And that's something we're gonna see more and more of, where a lot of organizations will have more of their team members having a mix. So you have an office, you work there, but at the same time, you have more flexibility because we realize now that we can do it and we don't have to be just productive in the office. Okay, so now Sarah is saying, I used to work virtually from my car, but I much prefer working virtually from home than in the car. Yes, absolutely. And we're going to be talking about it later, where a lot of people right now, it's hard for them to work at home. There's kids and they're loud and so much distraction. So I know some people that when they have an important meeting, let's say they're one-on-one with their managers, they go and take it from the car. And it's a good idea. I've taken so many meetings from my car, whatever works, and it's okay. Yes, okay. So now, whoever put the yellow thing, how can we take this one out? Do you know?
I don't know how it got there.
Okay, that's okay. We're gonna have it on every slide, it looks like, which is totally fine. So it's good. And that's part of adapting and being very flexible. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is a survey that happened, that SHRM, Society of Human, I messed it up, Society of HR Management. And they did the survey even before the corona and before all of the experience we're having right now. And they found that 66% of multinationals and half of all organizations, they're actually using virtual teams to increase productivity and to increase morale and all of these things that are important and reduce the cost of travel. So that's something that is very essential that a lot of organizations were doing initially, like already, and now we're just gonna see more and more doing that. And then this is another, it's by AIM Research, and they found that at that time, before coronavirus, 74% of team members work beyond business hours. So I want to ask you, you feel that you're working so much more right now when you are virtual? Because
yes.
it's no hours. It's not a matter of the 8 to 9, 8 to 5. It is like we're constantly working. And I know a lot of us were afraid about our jobs and we want to overdo and be overproductive right now. 90% have team meetings at least once a week. And I know like even now, once a week is not enough. Like we constantly need to have huddles and we need to stay updated with what the team are doing. 88%, they see virtual teams becoming increasingly prevalent. So imagine this was before 2020. So imagine how the number is so much higher right now. So now a question for you, and then we'll officially start. What are some of your main challenges that you're experiencing as you're working virtually? So you can talk to us, or if you don't feel comfortable, just type it in the chat. So what are some of the challenges you've been experiencing the last 2 months?
This is Robin.
Yes.
Initially, it was connectivity. You know, I have to move a lot of files over at certain periods of time, and it's so much slower here working remotely through VPN versus being in office where I would try to get it done here. It would take maybe 30 minutes. I get in the office, it's done within 10 minutes. But that was worked out because we were able to gain more speed to be able to work remotely. So that was the initial issue that I had.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's very, very tough. And how would you do work if you cannot get connection?
Right.
I see in the chat, we have kids, dog barking, husband having calls at the same time. So yeah, so it's different. So when I mentioned to you earlier that I started working virtually in 2004, it was, my biggest challenge was mainly having phone calls and understanding what other people say on the other line. But now it's so much more that we are dealing with in addition to working remotely. Yes, and not hearing the tone of voice in emails. Absolutely. It's different than when you're in person or having these similar to web meetings and seeing other people. So here are some of the challenges I hear others say. It's that it affects the relationships. So it's not as easy when we are virtually to really build relationships and to build trust. And so that is something that we need to be intentional about, to think about what do we need to do to continue to build relationships. And we're going to talk about it later as well. The sense of disconnection from the leadership team. So think about a lot of individuals that want to get promoted. They want to be recognized for their work. There's a lot of disconnection right now. There are some great managers out there that know how to motivate during difficult times, and they know how to stay connected, but there are still a lot of managers that they don't have these skills, and it becomes very difficult for everybody. Effect on career development. And this is something I mentioned earlier, where we need to be so careful not to allow this situation to stop us from advancing. It's okay if it puts a pause on the growth for a short period of time, but we need to be really, really careful that this is not going to hurt us long term. Adapt to new technologies. So this is what, Robin, you're talking about connection, but IT in general, like adapting to all of these new technologies. A lot of people did not even know that Zoom or Microsoft Teams existed two months ago. So now it's a whole different world we're living with. And then the boredom from working at home. And it depends on personalities. There are some individuals that are actually so happy. They're introverts, they enjoy being home, they are comfortable, like they're having the best time in terms of just being isolated. This is good. There's other individuals that need the human interaction. They need to go out and network, and they're missing all of this, and they feel totally bored. And they feel that something major is missing out. Distractions. So imagine all the distractions in our life, checking out social media constantly, checking out the news because we're afraid for our well-being. So these are all bigger challenges than just working from home, because they're affecting us in so many different dimensions. And then it's difficult. Do you feel that it's difficult to separate your work from home? So many times before this experience, anytime I'm speaking at a conference, the topic always comes up related to work-life balance. So how is that going on for you right now? It just makes it so much harder to have any kind of balance. And even then, I don't believe that there is ever a balance. It's a matter of really there's different seasons. There's seasons that we need to focus on our work. There's other seasons that we need to focus more on the family. But right now, it really feels all mixed together. So remember this BBC interview from 2 years ago when he was in the interview and his kids walked in the background and were interrupting him, and he was just like trying to push them aside. And we laughed at it, and it went viral. And we didn't realize that this is going to become our life 2 years later. How many of you relate to him and the pain he's experiencing or was experiencing? And then, do you know Spanx? So I love Spanx. So this is Sarah. She's the CEO. And she has here a post about her working in the closet so she can run away from her kids and have some moment so she can concentrate. So I've seen a lot of people working in their closet as well.
So Dima, if you don't mind, I just want to interrupt and say something. So on that video that you showed of the guy who was doing the interview and his children came in, there is another video that's floating out right now where it is a woman kind of mimicking the situation, but literally like her child comes in, she picks up her child, she feeds them, she cooks a meal, like she does like 5,000 things and like without flinching as her children are running into the room, and it's equally as funny.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so amazing. There's also, I've seen on Zoom backgrounds where they actually have the kids in the same kids in the background with the same settings as if you're sitting instead of him. And so this woman, apparently she found a trick, and her trick, don't do it. I'm not advising you to do it. I just think it's funny, where look at her, she's working in peace and she has her kids all tied. So now we get to the serious stuff. So connection. If you leave with two things from this presentation, I want you to write down intentional, because we need to be so intentional in so much right now in order to stay connected. And that's the second word. So intentional to stay connected, because the last thing we want is to be isolated from our manager, from our team, and isolated from the corporate strategy. And we're going to be talking about these things. So the first one is staying connected with your manager. And I realize right now it is so difficult to stay connected. A lot of managers, even in the past, may not have had one-on-one meetings, and they may not feel comfortable even now. They feel overwhelmed with everything that's going on. But the tricky thing is your manager needs to know about the work that you are doing. And you can't just allow this situation with all the distractions to stop you from communicating with your manager and staying connected. So my recommendation is, if your manager is not scheduling one-on-one meetings with you, you go ahead and schedule them. And even if they are just 10 minutes a week, well, worst case scenario, 5 minutes a week, you need to give your manager updates of what you're working on. And I realize many managers right now may not be in the mood to talk about your career development and training and all of this. It's okay. 2 months have passed, but think about now in the next few months that are coming up. As part of your conversation, you need to have two kinds of talks. One of them is about your work, the projects you're working on, the status, and all of this good stuff. The second one, you need to start having the conversation about maybe there's an online training you're interested in that you would like your manager to pay for. Maybe there is a certain webinar you attended that you gained a lot of knowledge from that you would like to share with the team. Just my goal, my focus here again is for you to continue to talk to your manager about your growth and not to put it in the back seat, even in difficult times like this. So here is a spreadsheet, and I'm happy to share it. Oh, go ahead. You look like you have a question.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to interrupt. So do you have any advice on not just like trainings or, you know, career development, but especially in this time where most businesses now have even less budget to spend? Do you have any suggestions besides of like things that, you know, maybe you can't have that conversation, but that aren't things that they have to pay for?
Yes. And you know, one of the things I'm so impressed about during this time, how many organizations and universities, they're offering free training online.
Yep.
And this is not going to last forever. So go and find, even if it's free training, take it. I know LinkedIn, oh my goodness, LinkedIn, they're offering so many resources and training. So take that, and that's going to help you. Even if your manager is not paying for it, you're taking the initiative to develop new skills. You update your LinkedIn profile, you update your resume, you communicate with your manager. All of this is so important. I learned just recently about, I think it's called Work. Let me pull it up. Hold on. I'm going to pull it up in a second. I found it today, and I'm using it for another presentation that I have tomorrow. Hold on. It's called Work It Daily. So if you search Work It Daily, it is an online platform that you just pay $20 for, and they offer you, they review your resume, they help you with your LinkedIn profile, they give you, so it's membership. You're paying $20 a month, which I'm assuming a lot of people can still afford. But then you also get a lot of resources and training. So to them, they have a lot of people signing up so they can afford doing that. So it's a matter of taking initiative as well. Yes, your manager may not have the funding, So what can you do in order to continue to develop? And one of the things we need to keep in mind is the world we lived in 2 months ago is not going to be 100% the same as the world we're going to be living in 2 months, like 2 months or 3 months from now. A lot of people, I hear them talk about, they can't wait for things to go back to normal. They can't wait for them to go back to work and businesses opening. It's different. The skills are going to be different. And now with a lot of organizations letting go of their employees, when they rehire, they're going to be so picky of the skills that they are hiring. They want people that are more adaptable. They want people that continue to develop new skills. And that's something we need to keep in mind and to be smart about. So I'm going to pause and see if that answered your questions and if there's additional questions before I move forward.
Do you have any guesses of like what skills might be higher going forward that were lower previously?
So one of the skills that I actually was terrified about before even the COVID-19, and it's good, but it's scary to me. It is all the robotics and all the changes that we're going to see where more and more automation is going to happen. So imagine like a lot of the jobs that could be automated and taken where a robot can do it. And like with artificial intelligence and all of this, and not to scare anybody, like this is our fact and we need to continue to develop new things. So if you are a person who loves IT, go learn more about artificial intelligence, about big data, about analytics. And this is so important because this is the future that we're going to be living in. So this is for anyone who loves IT. And you know, in my opinion, customer service, even though it sounds like so many people, they're like, oh, that's basic. No, I think customer service is going to become more and more important because now we're all going to be so selective and picky where we are spending our money. So we want a person that we're working with that is going to provide excellent customer service, who's really good in building relationships, who's great in communication. So all of these are areas we need to focus on. The other one that I recommend, since if you have time, is to take some courses about sales. Regardless what you do, regardless what your background is, take sales because there's going to be a lot of need for individuals with sales experience. And as Amy, I'm just going to put you on mute. Actually, I can't. So in addition to sales, in terms of learning how to sell yourself, like your skills, that's going to be so important. So even let's say your background is a CPA, as an example. It's okay. You don't have to go take courses in your field. Go take courses in a whole different field. Take some courses in marketing. Take some courses in, as I mentioned now, in sales. Diversify your knowledge because eventually that's going to make you more stronger and more capable to do more roles than what you've done in the past. Did I overwhelm you? Okay, good. Do you agree, Narisha, about sales? Because most of us, we may not have that experience growing up, and we may be really, really good at what we do, but if we don't know how to sell, that's missing 50% of the equation. Yeah, okay.
I would agree. I think because sometimes like the sales skills, I would say, come into play because it's not always about selling a product. It's about selling yourself, whether that's selling yourself to your coworkers or to your manager or to another organization because you're looking for an opportunity. I think sometimes people assume because they are extroverts and good at talking, that is not the same as being a good seller, and learning how to refine those skills, I feel like will help us in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. So now when I feel I miss a page. Let me go back. Oops. Yeah, this slide, I love this slide, and I'm going to share with you why I like it. This is an Excel document that if anyone wants it, just email me and I'll send it to you. And it's mainly you're keeping track of the projects you're working on. It's so simple, nothing fancy IT, but you write here the main projects you're working on. You write when you started working on them, when you're projecting for them to be completed, the status. Is it in progress? Are they done? Are they delayed? Who you're working with? Maybe you're working with a customer or a supplier or a team member, and any dependencies or challenges that you're experiencing. And this is mainly where the manager needs to help you. This is so important, whether we are working virtually or in person, for you to keep your manager updated. My recommendation is to email this to your manager on a weekly basis. You can choose. You can either send it before your one-on-one, or you choose to send it if you're not having one-on-one, which I don't recommend that, to send it on Friday and to update your manager and say, I just want to update you. These are the items I'm working on. There's multiple reasons why this is so important. First, it helps your manager to understand your workload, because we tend to work on so many things and we're not communicating them, and we keep getting more and more projects. So workload. The second one is also going to help you to document what you're working on. So when you are, when the end of the year, during the performance review, you're able to demonstrate all the value you have delivered, instead of just forgetting about some of the projects you worked on. And especially now, like a lot of managers, they may not even have the capacity or the energy to understand what each person is working on. So this is your way to stay visible. Remember, I talked to you about my team leader, the one that reported to me, and she was so sneaky and hiding and trying to act like she was busy all the time. So that is an Excel spreadsheet I asked her to complete, and she wouldn't. Week after week after week, and she would resist, and she would always keep giving me excuses. And then finally she completed it. And it, to me, in my opinion, her workload was more like 10 hours a week, the most. So that helped me as a manager to understand what she was working on. So whether you're working for somebody, whether you're a manager, whether you're a business owner, think about stuff like tools like this that are so simple, where you can get a better clarity of what your team are working on, and you're communicating as well what you are working on. So let me pause and ask, how do you feel about this? Is this something you're doing, or are you doing something else to help you continue to communicate to your manager about your workload?
I think that this project tracking sheet is phenomenal. Currently, my office just recently went to a work from home platform, and they have us filling out just a basic spreadsheet saying, okay, from this time to this time, this is what we did. And I find that it's very cumbersome to try to break down my day in incremental time periods. But I think that with this global kind of projects, completion date, who I'm working with, I like this much better. And I'm going to definitely propose it to my supervisor.
Sounds great. And Nikki, email me. I'm happy to send you the actual Excel document. You see,
Okay.
when we're asking our employees to document minutes and hours, what they're working on, that's too much micromanagement, as if I would feel like I'm choking if somebody is doing this. When we're working virtually, it's not a matter of the hours, it's a matter of results. So as long as we're showing results, that's what we need to focus on. And this is what the Excel spreadsheet helps us with. It's mainly helping us to document the results of what we're working on a weekly basis.
And Dima, this is Julia. I'm not really, I don't really work on projects. I just, call members, for our, for the insurance company and stuff, and try to, sometimes I consider myself medical customer service, because I'm helping the patient, the member out with their benefits along with the clinical. But, when you were talking about working from home, a lot of people, I've had friends say, well, how do they know if you're working? Well, we have, audit and monthly, audits, how many calls you're making, how many this. And I'm thinking, oh, Big Brother is watching me every second. They know when I'm typing, they know when I'm on the phone. So, I know every job is probably different, but I know a lot, with me is just our audits and our meeting our performance goals per month, calls or admits or whatever. So
thank you, Julia. This is very helpful. And I want to link it back to what I said earlier. A lot of managers in the past, They were not okay with their employees working virtually because they want to see them. They want to make sure that they're in the office at their desk. They can watch what they're working on. And it's a different world right now. It's really evolving all of us. And we need to think about what do we need to do to continue to build trust with the manager, and for the manager to trust the employees. Of course, we need to keep tracking what they're working on, but what Nikki mentioned about documenting what you worked on every single hour or blocks of hours, that's intense. That by itself is taking so much time, and it's wasted
Oh, we had that once too, and you're right, that was too much. But you know, this is something a little more concrete. And actually working from home, I don't know, I find I get more done because I don't have the people walking by your cubicle that want to sit and chat, or you know, come to the break room or whatever. But it is a balance. It's a balance.
Yes. Thank you.
I had something to say.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I was thinking, and you just touched on it, heretofore the onus has been on the employees to keep up, but I think through this crisis, employers are going to start having to trust the employees more. You know, look at productivity, see the end product more than the minute by minute, hour by hour. You know, you could sit at your desk at a place in person and do nothing all day, and they're okay because they see you. So, you know, the trust factor has to evolve with this whole process as well, from the employer standpoint. I am in my former life, you know, kind of keeping up, and I kept all the tracking sheets and all of that. For the simple reason, nobody asked for it. I just wanted them to know what I was doing. But now I am in academia, and so faculty meetings sort of keep up with this automatically for me, but there still has to be trust from the employer.
I totally agree with you. Thank you for sharing that. It's a matter of trust. And in the past, a lot of employers were not comfortable with this because they feel, as you mentioned, they have to watch the employees, even if they're sitting at their desk. I am one of the people who I remember some days where I was not in the mood of working, and I would just be at my desk counting the hours until it's 5 p.m. And don't tell anyone, but that happened in the past. But yeah, so, and it doesn't mean that if you're home, you're going to be 100% productive. It's a matter of looking at the results. And I feel with all the pressure we're living with right now, part of the silver lining is it's going to evolve us as managers and employees to learn to trust each other and to learn to focus on the result. It's not a matter, if I can finish my work in an hour, why is it expected from me to sit and just sit and do nothing for another 7 hours, right? Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. So now it's very important to communicate the following with your manager. And if you are a manager, think about how you can communicate these things with your employees. The first one is setting expectations. In all of my workshops that I talk with executives or managers, and it's not specific to working virtually, many times they're complaining about certain things that employees are doing. Maybe they're not coming to work a certain hour. Maybe they're not leaving a certain hour. Maybe they're taking very long lunch break. And I talk to them and I say, did you set the expectations? Did you tell them what you want? And the majority of the time, these managers would say, no, I didn't think about it. I didn't tell them their hours or the expectations I have of them. And that becomes so tricky. So that's why it's so important when you're talking with your manager, make sure you understand what are the expectations of your manager, especially now since we're in a whole different world. And also make sure you're clear. Make sure you agree with these expectations and discuss them. The second one is share with your manager your new reality. A lot of us right now, we're scared of communicating our new reality, especially for individuals that are afraid to lose their job. They're afraid that their kids are screaming while they are on a meeting with their manager. They're afraid that their dog is barking. So we just need to really, like in our one-on-one, to discuss our new reality. This is not going to last forever. So of course we want to do a good job, but at the same time, a lot of people, they're in difficult time. And we're not even talking about like mental pressures that so many people are experiencing with more depression, more challenges. So it's beyond just your work, taking care of your family, and being afraid about your health. There's a lot of things that people are experiencing. And it's so important to be honest and to share that with your manager. The next one is prioritize your work. And this is another thing you need to talk with your manager about. This is a time where you cannot do everything. So imagine if you had 6 projects, maybe 2 of them are urgent and they are a priority. So talk with your manager to see, are those ones you can focus on right now and you can delay the other ones? If they are not urgent, they're not important, you can delay them maybe in a month or so. It just depends on what you have in your workload, but this opens the conversation and it creates more clarity of what you're working on. Because if you have the opportunity to reduce some of your workload during this time, like why not? That's a good thing. And then discuss work flexibility. This is another thing that is essential. Imagine if an individual, like a lot of people, especially with children, it's not easy to do the 8 to 5. It is impossible. So I can share with you some of the examples I heard of what people are doing, especially the ones, of course, they discuss with the manager, they agree, and they're on board, where they start a little earlier. So let's say they start at 6 or even earlier, and they get as much work as possible until 10. And then they don't do work from 10, let's say, to 4, and they work from 4 to 8. So this way they are being more flexible with their hours. It's not something that they're gonna do for the rest of their life. It is just now, so they can take care of their family. And when they're working, they are focused, and they can split the work between like the husband and the wife. So this way somebody is watching the kids, so the other one can do the work. It's of course we need to communicate this, because we cannot expect that we're just going to be doing the 8 to 5 and everything is going to be perfect. Another person, what she's doing is she talked with her manager and they agreed to divide the 40 hours, instead of dividing it by 5, which is 5 days, weekdays, to divide it by 7. So this way she's working less hours per day, but she's working 7 days a week. And that works because this way she's able to get the hours, assuming it's an hourly job, and at the same time take care of the family and not feel pressured beyond her ability to do all of these things. We as women, we try to be perfect in everything. We try to be perfect moms and spouses and employee and all of this. But this is time that it is okay not to be perfect. It's okay to just do what you can and not to totally overwhelm yourself. If it's gonna give you having conversation with your manager, if it's gonna free few hours in the day so you can focus on yourself and your family and all the emotions that you may be experiencing, that's okay. So don't feel that you have to go above and beyond. And I know as a culture here in the US, different countries have different cultures. Here in the US, it's a matter of overachieving. And if your goal was 100, you want to achieve 200, and challenging yourself. And this is what we're programmed. And I'm a person who preaches that, and I teach people to do it in normal situations. But right now, it's okay to just do what you can. It's okay to not do stretch goals. It's okay to not over challenge yourself. And it's a matter of survival. Like even in my situation, it's a matter of survival day by day. I was talking to Narisha about it a few weeks ago, and Narisha has this amazing article, and the person who wrote it, she talked about it's a matter of just getting to the other side. This should be our goal. What can we do now to give us enough energy to live day by day so we can go to the other side? And so I know I'm a person who talks earlier in our workshop now about career development and develop your skills, but now I'm telling you, don't overstretch. So it's a matter of you figuring out what is the balance that works for you. And then I'll say the last one, and then I'll open it for us to talk. Share best communication methods. So you may need to, your best communication method is like this. a Zoom or a Skype. Other people, they prefer text. Other people, they prefer an email. So make sure you're communicating with your manager and you're sharing what is the best way you would like people to communicate with you. Because when you do, they're going to be able to, like, if you're not responding to emails, they can know what is the best way to reach you. So I'm going to pause and see what comments, what are you doing to communicate with your manager, and share any questions or anything you got.
We start out every day with a call with the team. We'll kind of have a good morning call, and that's more of a personal nature, kind of what's happened over the weekend, anything interesting, how's the weather, what did you cook? Did you cook anything that's pretty good? And we kind of start every day out with that. But then we'll try to, if you want to meet with someone, we'll, instead of cold calling them constantly on Teams, we started before all of this happened, getting rid of some of the desk phones and moving to Teams as the desk phone. So you kind of send them a meeting request, even if it's like 5 minutes from now. Just kind of give them a heads up that I'm going to be calling you. So I think that's helped out a lot in getting us to the habit of just talking to each other daily.
Yeah, that's so great. Thank you. Okay, so that's the first one. Imagine all of this is the first one, communicating with your manager. And that is so essential because your manager is the one who's going to evaluate you. Your manager is the one who's going to determine your performance and your growth and promotion and all of this. The second one is it's so important to stay connected with the team's mission and the corporate strategy. It is easy right now to be disconnected from that. It's easy to focus on getting the work done. But my recommendation for you is stay updated on what your company is doing, where they're heading, how are they performing financially. Even Google them and see if there's any articles about the company that is available online. It's so important for all of us to not just focus on our daily work and to do a great job, instead to really understand how our work is contributing to the bottom line. Because the more we understand the bigger picture, that's when we can provide even more value, instead of just being tactical and getting your work and just closing the computer for the day. So think about that. Think about what can you do to get better understanding of the strategy of the company, where it is heading, the goals. And the goals may have changed the last 2 months. So much has changed the last 2 months. And then the next one is to stay connected with your team members and your mentors. And we're going to talk about networking a little as well. So your team members, like when I talk to people about what do they miss the most when they're working virtually, it's always that they miss their team. So think about what can you do in order to stay connected with your team. I know a lot of organizations, they're doing, just like, I think it was, is it Alice, or like you were talking about the morning huddles, or some companies are doing happy hours or doing other things. So that's good. My recommendation is even to send a message to your team members and just say, how are you feeling? Is there anything I can help you with? To stay connected with them. To also stay connected with your mentors. Like if you have a mentor or a coach, make sure you are reaching out to them, scheduling a call, checking on them, because again, we don't want this time to make us be disconnected by any measures. And that's when I want to talk about networking. Many people right now, they're questioning, how can we network? How can we network in this environment? Because we can't go to events and meet people and get their business card and lose their business card and never see them again. We can't do that. But my recommendation for you is reach out to your current network. Do what you can in order to strengthen your current relationships. You may not be able to add a lot of people now to your network. That's okay. But your current network, reach out to them, ask how they're doing. If there's opportunities where you can connect people together, do that. But see what you can do to add value to your existing network in order to build stronger relationship with them as well. So I don't know if you saw this. I got it on social media. Apparently, there's a farm that wasn't doing too well, and they started selling like having their llama or their goat join a Zoom meeting for corporations, and they just charge $100. So if you want a pig, a goat, or a llama to join your team meetings, you just go to Business Insider and you just pay $100, which is hilarious. So some people are taking it too funny. So in order to stay connected, video, video, video. So whenever you are on meetings, and I know it gets so exhausting, and I understand, like I'm exhausted by the end of the day being in front of the camera and all of this, but so be selective. Think of the meetings that you truly need to be present and you need to be seen, because you don't want to be not visible and hidden in the background, even if you don't look good, even if you feel your background doesn't look so great, and we're going to talk about that. But be selective. Select the meetings that you like you're meeting with your manager, you're meeting with your executive. Make sure you're seeing each other, because this way they can read you instead of just being behind a black screen. Digital body language. So this is, we read a lot from people's body language. You can read my face, you can read my body language. So watch also your voice, because we women, we tend to have our voice very low. We try to be so kind and quiet, and that doesn't come across very well. So make sure your voice is clear and you're speaking where people can hear you on the other side. It becomes so much harder when it's virtual compared to when you are in person. Virtual water cooler time, virtual happy hours. So this is linked to what I was mentioning earlier. Make sure you stay connected with people, with your team, with your network, and schedule the water cooler time. We may not be able to go have an actual water cooler time, but there's virtual, which is we get to learn about other people and what they are experiencing. And recharging your relationships. This is so important. So think about the important relationships, whether it is within your team or outside of the company, that you would want to continue to build and to nurture during this difficult time as well. Okay, so let's see. How much time we have? I don't have my calendar, my iPhone next to me.
Sorry, 4 minutes.
Okay, so let's go through this real quick, and because this is so important. So I know a lot of people were challenged initially with backgrounds and all of this, and we're very creative. Make sure your background doesn't look like this. And I've seen it. How many of you have seen people where you look at their background and you're like, oh my goodness, this is so horrible. I know this is exaggerated, and of course I'm gonna exaggerate it, but make sure where you're sitting, there's not a lot of mess. And if there is, just find a corner and sit there where people cannot see your background. I know a lot of people, they're being so creative, like this person is working from the car. I mentioned to you, and it's okay. I've worked from the car so many times, as long as it is quiet. And if you have a meeting that is so important, go to the car, make sure your car is right next to your home, so this way you get the internet connection. These are funny backgrounds. So if you like Star Wars or any interesting things, you can go online, you can search by them, HBO or Star Wars, and you'll be able to get them. And of course, it depends on the meeting. If the meeting is serious, don't go get a Star Wars background. But if you're having a happy hour with your team, that's a whole different situation. And this, so if you look, there's a lot of people where you're talking to them and they are too dark. And this is called a ring light. I should update it, because when I took this screenshot, it was $15.99. Now it is $23.99. It's like went up a lot. It looks just like this. And you see how it becomes a light? And you can, I don't have my iPhone with me, but you can clip it on your iPhone. So when you're speaking, the light is coming to you and it gets light. Or you can clip it on your laptop, like right there. You see how you can clip it? You clip it on your laptop. I have one in front of me. So let me show you, if I turn it off, how dark I would look. You see? So, so this is something you can get online. Mine is much bigger than this small one. I have both, but this is something we need to think about, of how, in order to be visible, we don't want to just be hidden in the background again. Oops, it's fallen apart. So, So yeah, so think about these little tiny things that make a difference. Your voice being heard, your being visible, clean background behind you. All of this is aligned with your brand. So when people are talking to you, this is how they're seeing you instead of being in a messy environment. And if you need to wear shorts with your clothes, that's okay. Just don't do what this guy did. Look at him. He was in the news. He's a reporter and he forgot to wear his pants. So he was sitting there and wearing his shorts. So don't do that. And when you are in meetings, make sure, even more than ever, I've seen women in meetings where they sit and they're quiet and they're listening, they're good, but they're not contributing. They're not sharing their thoughts and their opinions. And we can't do that. In order for us to be promoted, in order for us to be heard, we need to share our voice. And that's why now, more than ever, when we're virtual, we need to ensure that we're asking questions, we're commenting, we're adding value. And if you feel that you get distracted when you put yourself on mute and you multitask, then that means don't put yourself on mute. Put yourself in a situation where you are being heard, but at the same time, you're not getting distracted. You're actually contributing to the discussion. So I feel I put so many more slides than what we can cover, but let me go here. And I'm gonna go to this slide. So I wanna hear from you. What are some of your takeaways? And then I have a door prize for you. What are some of the things you learned today? You can either say them or you can enter them in the chat.
I learned about being visible because I'm always on, I always have my camera off because I never know when my baby's going to run across the room. But just the being visible, finding a spot, finding a space to be able to be present and seen. So excited about that.
Yes, yes. And it's normal right now. Everybody, they have kids in the background screaming. So I know you're trying to avoid having that, like people in your team or your manager seeing that, but it's the environment we're living in right now. So Adrian, yes, team goat. Now, Adrian, you should get the goat to your team meeting. I think so. Yes, Robin, intentional and staying connected. So think about, get a piece of paper, put it 3 columns and write down what are you going to do to be intentional in connecting with your manager, in connecting with the department goals and strategies. And the third one is with your team. So write all of these down because it's so important. Okay, so now I am based in Baton Rouge, even though my background now looks like California because I got, by chance, I came to San Diego on March 11th, and then I got stuck here. I don't want to fly during the pandemic. So, but I'm usually in Baton Rouge. If you have any questions or you need additional help, here's my contact information. Here's my email and my LinkedIn profile. And I'm going to give a coaching session, I'm actually going to give 2 things. One of them, an hour coaching session. And the second one is a free access to this week's Leadership and Lattes. So if anyone didn't hear of Leadership and Lattes, this is a women group that I started in Baton Rouge 3 years ago. And this week, we're going to talk about how to define our value and how to communicate it. So, so anyone who's interested, go ahead, enter the information in the Dima Ghawi. I'll put it in the chat. And I'll select 2 people. I'll send the information to Narisha with the person who got the hour coaching session with me and with the one who got the access for the Leadership on Lattes. You don't have to put it here. You need to go to this link.
So Dima, I had a question where someone asked if the recording will be available. And so yes, we did record it, and we will make it available and share that out to the league when it is available. And I also want to let you know that there are 3 training sessions that are taking place. So I don't know if you saw all of them. We have another one scheduled for noon this coming Friday, and then we have one scheduled for next week. So the one on noon this Friday is about elevating your brand. And then on the 14th, It is at 4:00 p.m. That one's on building resilience. And I specifically chose that time in working with Dima because I know around that time, we know that sometime during the week, the governor will be giving an update about what we're going to do in Louisiana. And some of us may be excited about the news. We may not be excited. I don't know. But the whole point is that we need to be resilient. And so I thought that would be timely for that. And so I would encourage you to participate in those two trainings as well, both led by Dima.